So each and every week, we make sure that we solicit feedback from you, our loyal, faithful listeners and viewers. We want to interact with you, even though we've been warned it's dangerous. You don't want to go in the comments section. Dad, don't read your replies. It's not good for you. But every single Wednesday, we just can't help ourselves. And what do we do, Anthony Haney?
We read those comments, baby.
Yes, we do. Yes, sir. Yes, we do. Let's dive in, shall we? We start always now that we have our youtube.com/@theteam980 channel with our comments from the Team 980. This one from Grego, huh? That's what his name is. Grego, huh? Hey, it's Grego, huh? Right on. I wonder if so the first set of comments are on the kind of group of segments we've done over the last week on the national media's narrative on Sam Howell and the Commanders. So that's where these are coming from. And Grego says, I wonder if the drop in rank is the difficulty of schedule. Last year, the NFC East had the easiest schedule in the league. Plus, we have an unknown offense. So from an outside perspective, I can understand why they think that's where we're at. But in all honesty, I think we have the potential to be a good team, potentially a double-digit win football team. And that's kind of where I'm at, too. I think it's too early to try to play the schedule game. As, by the way, schedule release tomorrow, starting at 7 here on the Team 980, brought to you by Old Ox Brewery. And you can go hang out with Linnell and Logan at Old Ox Brewery in Ashburn. Pew, 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 lasers, fireworks. Back to the take. You just don't know, right? If you get Denver early in the year, that seems like it'd probably be good. Denver late in the year could be an absolute dumpster fire for Denver. Could be really bad for the Commanders if all of a sudden Sean Payton fixes Russell Wilson and they are rolling and Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy look phenomenal and they just put it all together. Like, oh God, I don't want to see them. You know, we didn't know last year the Giants would be good. Turns out they were good, and the whole linchpin of the season turned on the fact that the Commanders couldn't beat the Giants. Didn't know the Eagles would be second best team in football all year. Will they be again? Sure seems like it. Maybe they'll be better. But could the Cowboys be worse? Definitely. It's too hard to predict that kind of stuff. Aaron Rodgers makes the Jets game far more challenging. Or does it? What if he's done? What if he's toast? What if he's cooked? What if he's injured? Like, you just don't know enough to play the schedule game. Here's what I do know. I know this defense should be pretty good. I know this offense should be schemed up to maximize weapons that I think are also pretty good. So if that's the case, and they were 8-1 last year, I do think they should be better this year. But, Anthony, I understand the national skepticism, and I understand not giving the Washington organization, given the last quarter century of history, any kind of, benefit of the doubt.
Hey, I'm all in favor of the national media writing us off because we ain't writing back. We're just going to go out there, and we're going to prove these people wrong, man.
Is that what the kids say nowadays? You can write me off, but I'm not going to write back?
Nah, that's more so what Gino said.
Oh, that's true. I was like, where's that from? Gino said it, but it sounds like a Drake lyric.
Yeah.
Is it a Drake lyric? It might be.
He might have incorporated in one of his songs, knowing him.
It sounds like a Drake lyric. All right. Along those same lines, Kevin Hardy says, you know what his name would be if he was from Boston, Anthony?
Harlan?
No, it's just Kevin Hardy. It's a good Boston name. Kevin Hardy says, Bleacher Report ranked our defense as number 4 overall post-draft, yet we're going to finish the bottom of the league, LOL. And that's kind of my thing, too. It just seems like the entire – and we did a full segment on this on Take Command with Kime earlier in the week. Like, did y'all forget the defense is pretty good around here? And when it struggled early in the season last year, it was without Cam Curl and before Jamin Davis kind of figured out how to play NFL football at a high level. I don't anticipate that Jamin Davis forgot. And as far as we know, Cam Curl is going to be ready. If he gets hurt in training camp, okay, all bets are off. But I like the upgrades they made, Forbes and Martin in the first 2 rounds. By the way, there's this fella named Chase Young that hopefully is going to come back and could turn this into a top 5, top 3 defense if he's a monster. But they didn't really lose anything defensively that they can't replace. Like Bobby McCain left. Okay. Obviously, William Jackson III left. When he did, they got better last year. So that's where my biggest issue of all these national rankings, and Logan and I today went into Mike Clay's quarterback rankings where he had the Commanders dead last, where he's got the wide receivers 11th. And like we picked some nits, and after looking at it, I have less gripes with the wide receiver than I do the quarterback. But at the end of the day, like when you tell me this team is going to be awful, when you tell me this team's going to be a 4-win team, I just don't get it based off the fact that at the very least their defense should be good. And they went 8-1 last year with what I think is going to be a worse defense than what they will have this year. And a better offense. Or like this year's offense is better. That's projection. But the defense part, you can never really tell year to year, but it certainly feels like they're going to be on the up. Then we get into what was certainly the most commented on video of the week, Anthony. Our friend Matt Miller. Matt was on with Linnell last weekend, and he made a comparison of Colt McCoy to Sam Howell. The full version of that quote we played on the segment that all these comments were left on. And I think it's important to also say that Matt said he doesn't have a great arm. Now, I have talked to Matt Miller since this happened, and I mentioned this in the segment. When Matt Miller said he doesn't have a great arm, he meant he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes' arm. He doesn't have Josh Allen's arm. He has a good arm. He really likes Sam Howell, thinks the arm is good, thinks there's other things that could prevent him from being a good starter in this league, but the arm strength is not one of them. And yet, here are the comments, Anthony. Here are the comments.
Buckle up.
From 703 Evol X, which sounds like a play call. We're running 703 Evol X, 703 Evol X, on two. You ready, Anthony?
Yes, sir.
All right, by the way, what were your stats this weekend in flag football?
Oh, I went crazy. I'm not going to lie. I had 2 touchdowns. I had a pick 6 on a 2-point conversion. I had like 4 or 5 flag pulls. I had a pretty good outing this week.
On two, set, hut. Nicely done, sir. Got that plug in. So 703 Evol X says, why does he get a pass for this? He being Miller. This is his job, and he got the simplest of things incorrect. Sam Howell does not have a comparable arm to Colt McCoy, and it's absurd to try and backtrack now because he's justifiably being roasted for it. Except for he didn't say that, which is why he gets a pass. He doesn't need a pass because that's not what he said. Papi Rodriguez says, he literally said, and I quote, not great arm strength. Tell us what we got wrong. You got wrong the next part of the sentence where he said, but it's good. At least that's what he told me. So if he didn't perfectly articulate this in the clip that we played on the show from his interview with Linnell, who I know has also been defending Matt for the same exact reasons, not just to defend Matt. He is a good dude. I really like having him on the show. I think he's smart and I think he works hard. All those things are great, but I'm not going to defend a guy in a specific instance if he said something that's wrong. I'm just going to be like, hey, that was wrong. You missed. But like, I talked to Matt about this. I know what he thinks. He told me, yeah, what I meant was he doesn't have Mahomes' arm. He doesn't have Josh Allen's arm. And just because he can, get his feet underneath him and lace a ball 59 miles per hour into a pad doesn't mean that he's going to do that in a game all the time. Matt also told me that he thinks sometimes how, based off what he saw at UNC, the film breakdown, his actual job, he would get too much into his upper body in terms of relying on it for his throws. So when you're Patrick Mahomes and you can throw off platform anywhere and just sling a ball from any arm angle, that doesn't matter because you have such a freaking cannon that you can still get the adequate zip on any ball, whether your feet are on the ground, whether your body is upright sideways, or, there was that one throw in the Super Bowl where he was being tackled and I feel like he threw it submarine 45 yards in the air and hit Tyreek Hill in the face mask. Remember that one, Anthony?
He was basically laying on the ground.
Yeah.
Basically.
Sam Howell can't do that. That's a great arm. Sam Howell doesn't have a great arm if that is your definition of great. Now, I would say that I think we need to expand our definition of great, and what Mahomes and Allen have are like legendary arms, right? So if you want to argue about semantics, fine. But what he actually means is if great is Allen and Mahomes, he don't have that. That's fine. If Howell, who did have footwork issues at UNC, can clean up his footwork and consistently keep his base underneath him and do some of the stuff that he does do well on the run, his arm is going to be just fine. He's going to make great throws. But what all of you that are planning on tweeting Matt Miller every time Sam Howell throws a deep ball this year are missing is that you're wrong. Please don't do that. Don't be that person on the internet. You're the reason we call this segment Never Read the Comments. I am helping you understand right now. If you think Matt misspoke and what I'm saying is different than what he said, okay, fine. But I'm telling you what he meant because I actually did this crazy thing and asked him. Most of the exchange, we did go in our DMs a little bit and extend our conversation, but most of that is public for you to read on Twitter. Go read it.
I understand you're letting everyone know not to DM and add Matt Miller. They're going to definitely add him. Zaire is still getting at and DM from Jamal Williams fans. Like, for the Hard Knocks situation that he had last year. He's still getting DM'd.
Again, so this is why we call the segment Never Read the Comments.
He will.
I'm asking you to read this particular comment, so to speak. Watch this video, and then don't be that guy on the internet. Thank you. This has been a PSA. Barry also commented on this. Barry's kind of a larger point that I want to make. He said, I'm sorry, but when you talk down on someone but then turn around and say, I hope they prove me wrong, it's a contradiction. Don't say it if you don't mean it. How does everyone put down this quarterback because he was picked in the 5th round? But you hear other people say if he was in the draft a year before, he will be a top 10 pick quarterback. Makes no sense to me. Barry, I'm sorry. This says more about you than it does about Matt Miller or anybody else. Let's take both parts of this. One, if you talk down on someone and then say, I hope they prove me wrong, it's a contradiction. No, it's not. When you're an analyst, your job is to call it like you see it. But that does not mean you wish ill on someone. If you think someone's bad, it doesn't mean you want them to be bad for the sake of you being right. Go ahead. I will happily be wrong if this person's actually good and successful. I can root for their success, but when asked for my objective opinion, tell you I don't think they're very good. That is literally what my job is. Very rarely there are players that I genuinely hope fail, and it's because I know or I've heard things about them that says, you don't deserve this spotlight of being a professional athlete. You're a bad person. The prime example being Deshaun Watson. I hope Deshaun Watson fails miserably as a football player because I don't think he should be playing football because of the things that he did. And again, before anyone goes, he wasn't found guilty, go look at what Deshaun Watson admitted to doing and then realize that he admitted to what is sexual assault. Thank you. Case closed. Moving on from that example. However, do I think plenty of players over the years were not going to be good, even though I like them as people? Sure. For instance, I got no problem with Bradley Beal. I think Brad's done a lot of great stuff in the community. No problem with Brad personally. Wish he'd come on the show. That's my only gripe with Brad at this time. However, do I think they can win a championship, they being the Wizards with him? No. Do I hope that he proves me wrong? Absolutely. Will I gladly eat all of the crow possibly bought by Brad's $252 million if the Wizards win a championship with Bradley Beal as their best player? Nom, 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 nom. Sign me up. I can hope the Wizards win while also objectively saying they're not a very good basketball team. Happens all the time. So yeah, Matt Miller, like Sam Howell as a dude, has heard good things, wants him to succeed, doesn't think he will. That's fine. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Matt Miller will still have his job at ESPN because that is the nature of scouting. It is objective. Not everyone agrees. And as long as you're right often enough and you generally put in the work, which Matt does, then you get to keep doing your job, whether it's for a team or for a television network. As for the how does everyone put him down and say he was a 5th-round pick when people were saying he's a top 10 pick before, there are way too many pundits in this business that have made people think that changing your mind is a weakness. Skip Bayless still thinks LeBron James isn't very good. Is that actually true? No. But he says it on television because it gets him attention. You're allowed to change your mind. And by the way, if your job is actually to scout for a team, your job is to change your mind. If you get more data, then you change your mind. If you're like, wow, this thing tastes good, and you realize it's poisonous, you probably are going to decide not to eat it anymore. So yeah, when you get more information, you change your mind. That's how that works. And his junior year was not as good as his sophomore year. So that was why that changed on Sam Howell. And if you can't get that by now, then I really don't know what to tell you. Anything to add, Anthony?
Nope.
Okay, on to the next one. Brian says, by the way, I get a comment or comments every once in a while, when, especially now that we're doing the show live, and like sometimes I forget to change the camera. See, sometimes it's like, it's just me. And then sometimes it's like, oh, hello, look, there's Anthony. And sometimes I'll do a segment and then I'll just get on a rant and you'll be kind of sitting there like just nodding your head. And people are like, hey, man, you want to let your co-host talk? Just in case you're a YouTube viewer who watches this stuff on demand only and don't realize that we're a live radio show that broadcasts 3 hours a day, Anthony's the super producer of this show. He does an amazing job. I love to get his takes on things when we can, but it's my job to talk the most. That's just how it works. So you can save that comment. Anyway, point is, continuing to move on. This is it's a long comment from Brian, but I think it's really interesting. This is on the most recent edition of Take Command, a clip that I posted on my YouTube page at Craig Hoffman, that talks about how, specific to this offseason at quarterback, I don't know what the Commanders were supposed to do. Lamar Jackson wasn't actually available. Aaron Rodgers wasn't available to them. I guess they could have gone down like a Derek Carr route, but he also was a trade guy who was kind of controlling where he wanted to go, and I don't think he was particularly interested here. So there weren't a lot of options for the Commanders, nevertheless, one they wanted to pursue. And so Brian says, about 7 minutes in, Craig defends Ron by asking what move they should have made, i.e. what free agent or draft quarterback available to them should they have taken. It's a fair point, but we've been making that same point for 4 years. In 2020, no one would have criticized taking Chase over Herbert or Tua based on what we knew at the time. The next year, most locals, myself included, understood that trading up for Fields wasn't going to happen or would have paid the in-division tax to do it. Then last year, the quarterback crop was weak, and they went crazy on Wentz despite even casual fans knowing Wentz was cooked, and now they pass again. So basically, Ron has no plan. Ron is content to just sit back year after year and watch from his mediocre 7-8 win armchair as quarterbacks get selected above him. What I've been advocating to my friends for years now is that the Commanders need to trade draft capital into next year's draft so that they have the ammo to move up. Just sitting back and hoping isn't going to cut it. Maybe Howell works out. I hope he does. I like him, but he's a long shot. Ron and the two Martys don't have a plan. They're perennially short-term focused, and that's why this team will continue to be mediocre as long as they're in charge unless they just get lucky and Sam breaks out. What's interesting, Anthony, is I agree with most of that. I do think the Chase Herbert / Tua thing is one that at the time you could have said, hey, you really need to think ahead here. Of course, the caveat was that they were inheriting Haskins and ownership was very invested in Haskins. And to an extent, they thought they could fix Dwayne. They quickly realized they couldn't. Okay, there goes that. Then you get into the next couple of years of bad ideas, not trading up, not doing enough. And I think the 21 year is valid, right? Should they have figured out just, hey, we're going to sacrifice a bunch of stuff. But the problem was they made the playoffs. And so they thought they were close. They think if we just get Ryan Fitzpatrick in here, we'll be fine. And actually, I endorsed that at the time. Obviously, horrendously did not work out. Last year is the one that I do not understand and will never understand. If you were going to play the long-term game, last year was the one to do it. Playing it with Carson Wentz was moronic. They also get unlucky in that it's the worst quarterback class in recent memory. Pickett's the only guy that goes in the first round. He probably only goes in the first round because there aren't guys like the ones in this year's class, nevertheless, next year's class above him. He's worked out in Pittsburgh all right, but like, does anyone think he's actually like going to be a top 10 quarterback for a decade? No. And that's what you're looking for in the first round. And I guess the point I would counterpoint to Brian with is you can't create something out of nothing. You do have to take risks, and I think that's where they've gone wrong. But what exactly, like, my point still stands. I don't think Brian would argue with that. He sounds like a very reasonable person. You can't create something out of nothing, and I just don't know what the Commanders are supposed to create at the quarterback position other than what they have now, which is we took a really talented kid with a pick much later than we anticipated. Thank God we did. But like Brian said at the end of his comment, well, either Sam breaks out or it's the next people's problem to figure out. And honestly, for the general health of the organization, I actually think that's a great thing. So we'll see, I guess.
But why do we never get it right, though? I feel like
because it's hard, man.
It's never.
How many teams have it right?
I mean,
like
at least some teams have temporary success at the position.
Like, would you say the Giants have it right with Daniel Jones? They just spent $40 million on Daniel Jones. Do they have it right?
I would say it's
or have they just locked themselves into being a 10-win team at best if everything goes right?
Yeah.
And is that...
At least they're contenders.
Sure. And, like, maybe they did. They spent a top 10 pick on a guy and, mixed results. Maybe it actually is working out before our eyes. But, like, the point is it's really hard. It took 4 years to think that, oh, my God, actually Daniel Jones is worth signing to a long-term contract. They might have just wasted 4 years. But lo and behold, Brian Dable comes in and fixes him. How many other... We did this exercise today of kind of tiering all the quarterbacks in the league on the back of Mike Clay's rankings that had the Commanders somehow dead last. And you just realize, like, once you get past about the first 12, 13 teams, like Cousins... I actually drew the line at Goff, right? And Detroit is, like, actively looking to upgrade on Goff if they can, right? They draft Hooker this year, and there's a lot of talk they might have drafted a quarterback higher. Like, clearly they're not sold on Goff long term. But even if you include Goff, that's 13 teams that have quarterback, I would say, figured out. That their quarterback situation is good. And that includes the aforementioned Watson, who might turn out to be one of the biggest mistakes in NFL history based off football and contract alone if he plays like he did last year. Nevertheless, the public embarrassment part. But if you count Watson, you count Goff, you count Cousins, you count Prescott, you count like that caliber on top of like the top 8 dudes, you're like, yeah, them some dudes. That's still only 13. That's less than half the league. Why do we never get it right in Washington? Because it's bleeping hard. And the owner employed Bruce Allen, who screwed up the Kirk one.
Yeah, that too.
That too. So there's that. That is Never Read the Comments for this week. You can leave a comment on the Team 980 on any of our shows, any of our live shows, any of our, which you can watch on demand anytime, or any of the highlights that we post, of course, on my page as well, where we post not only highlights from this show, but from Take Command as well. Make sure you are subscribed to the Team 980 YouTube page, to Craig Hoffman, the YouTube page, and to the fans' YouTube page for full episodes of Take Command.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.